Welcome to episode 38 of ECTEL Bytes. The show is a production of the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, and I'm your host, Coretta Crooks-Charles, ECTEL's Communications and Media Relations Manager. By now, you should know that we created this space to keep you informed about developments in electronic communications from the Directorate and like-minded organizations. Today, we begin a very special series exploring the results of the Digital Inclusion Survey conducted by ECTEL in collaboration with the OECS Commission under the World Bank-funded Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, or the CARDIT. The survey was administered across our 5 member states. That's the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Earlier this year, the Digital Inclusion Survey report was launched publicly, presenting the findings for the ECTEL member states as a whole. Over the next couple of weeks, we will take a deeper look at the performance of each member state. And of course, we're starting with the Commonwealth of Dominica. Joining us for the very first time on ECTEL Bytes is Mrs. Grace Herman Jules. She's the research analyst in the Economics and Finance Department at ECTEL, and she'll be walking us through the results for Dominica. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you, Coretta.
All right, so before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at ECTEL.
Good day, everyone. I am Grace Herman Jules, and I have been the research analyst for the past 8 years. My role involves conducting research and analysis, and I also work closely with the other members of the department in preparing the annual report, the annual sector review report, which is the annual evaluation of the telecommunication sector performance, as well as we compile ICT indicators, we coordinate surveys, just like the Digital Inclusion Survey that we will be discussing today. And I'm so happy to be here to share some of the key findings from the Commonwealth of Dominica.
Awesome. So what motivated ECTEL to undertake the Digital Inclusion Survey at this time?
In short, it was long overdue. The previous comparable survey was conducted about 10 years ago in 2014. And since then, the digital landscape, as you're well aware, has changed significantly. The Digital Inclusion Survey was undertaken to assess households as well as individuals' access to, use of, affordability of ICT, and broadband services, as well as the barriers households and individuals face. It also looked at digital literacy and digital skills across our member states.
No, that seems to be exceedingly thorough. Okay, so in Dominica, who exactly participated in the survey? Can you share with us the sample size and the key demographic characteristics?
All right. In Dominica, the survey covered approximately 760 households. There was a split between 30% urban and 70% rural. At the individual level, the total of 1,562 persons were interviewed. That comprised of almost 50-50 in terms of males and females. And the survey achieved a very high response rate of 97. That means a large percentage of the people who approached actually completed and responded to the survey.
Okay. So how was it structured? What were the main areas focused on?
As I indicated, we looked at 2 components. First, we targeted the household, and secondly, the individuals. So this way, we would capture both household level connectivity as well as individual level access, use, and digital skills.
Okay. What are the key takeaways for the household results for Dominica?
All right. Well, let's start by looking at connectivity. And we're going to compare that with what happened in 2014. So what we've noticed, there was a decline in the number of households in terms of ownership of traditional media devices, such as radio ownership. So in 2014, 64%, almost 65% of persons owned a radio. Right now is 55%. So we saw a decline in radio ownership, as well as television, which moved from 86% to 79%. Interestingly, in Dominica, fiber to the home is the most popular television service. And this accounted for about 60% of total subscriptions. This was largely influenced because of Hurricane Maria. Following Hurricane Maria, the infrastructure, the rebuilding of infrastructure, they built the more modern, so which is fiber to the home. So that was very unique in terms of Dominica. Households, we saw that households with fixed lines decreased. We know that most persons use more mobile than fixed line, but we saw that fixed line moved from 38% in 2014 to 22%. And households with at least one mobile phone increased from 92% to 97%. All right. And we noticed that in terms of devices use, the most common is laptop, 46.4%, followed by tablets of 39%, and only 5% of households reported using desktop computers.
Okay.
We could now move on to broadband access and to let's examine like what happened in terms of what happened in 2014 compared to now and the movement. So in 2014, less than 50% of all households had access to broadband service. This increased significantly to 88%, almost 89% in 2014, representing an increase of approximately 40 percentage points. So that's a significant increase. However, there is still 11.2% of households who do not have broadband access. So we wanted to know why. What were the barriers? What were the barriers preventing them from having that? And 33% of respondents indicated that it was cost of the service, and 28% said there was no need. There's a perceived need. They don't need it. That's why. 25% said we have access to it elsewhere, so we don't access it. And actually 6% indicated that there was no electricity, so that's why they couldn't access broadband. So, but we did have a follow-up question which asked, what would encourage you to adopt broadband? And most persons will, like 43% of persons said making it more affordable. Interestingly, 23% indicated nothing would encourage them further. So that was really interesting. We also,
before we go to the next one, Grace, I'm just wondering, for the persons who said they did not need it, I'm wondering, did the survey go into the age group as to dig who are these people who don't need it? I'm really curious.
So if you go into the report, you would see that it's also broken down by age, broken down by education, broken down urban, rural. So if persons are welcome to go onto our website, access the report, and you will do a deep dive to answer these little questions, because you want to know who, why,
Okay,
so you can do that. So we did examine that.
Okay.
So in terms of quality of experience, we wanted to know how persons view the experience of broadband, and what were some of the issues that households identified when considering choosing which broadband service to choose, and understanding if we also asked them about, do you understand the speed? We wanted to look at complaint resolution mechanisms and everything. So when it comes to the quality of customer experience, the most commonly reported issues were slow browsing speeds, no network access, complete loss of broadband service, and speed tests not matching the advertised download speeds. So in terms of affordability, on average, most households in Dominica reported spending in terms of fixed broadband services, $165 annual, that's not one monthly basis.
EC.
Yes. If they had prepaid mobile plans, they reported an average of $127.33. And in terms of the postpaid mobile plans, $143.90 for the postpaid plans. So we then asked, do you feel that that's affordable? Is broadband affordable? And do you perceive it as being affordable? And overall, broadband services were not widely viewed as being affordable. So while 58% almost 59% of households felt that mobile services were affordable. Only 42% said the same for mobile broadband, and 44% believed that fixed broadband service was affordable.
That's some really interesting data. Thanks so much for breaking that down for us, Grace. So let's turn our attention now to the individual component because, as you said, the survey looked at household and individual. So let's talk about the individual component. What did the results reveal about device ownership and use, for example?
Yes, as I indicated previously, we interviewed, apart from the households, we interviewed approximately 1,560 individuals for the survey, and we just wanted to find out the benefit of the ITC devices, what were they used for, where they used it. So there's a whole host of information that you could find from that section of the report. So in terms of device ownership and use, mobile ownership is nearly universal. I mean, we know that everybody has a phone, maybe more than one. But we found that almost 92% of respondents reported that they owned a mobile phone, right? It was relatively the same between both males and female, 91.8% for males and 92.1% for females. In terms of usage, because you don't only want to own a phone, you want to know if they use the phone. So in terms of usage, 93.5% of respondents indicated that they had used their mobile phone within the last 3 months. So we also wanted to know among the mobile phone owners, how many had smartphones, because smartphones would allow you to access the internet and, so among those phone owners, 95, almost 96% actually reported owning a smartphone. Now that's a significant increase from 55.8% in 2014. So smartphone ownerships was high, both for males and for females, 95% for males, 96% for females. Now, we also ask, what will the reason for you not owning a smartphone, especially in today's world? So again, it was cost as well as lack of perceived need. We just don't need it. So what we also noted was prepaid mobile service remains the most dominant subscription type. That's with 77% of respondents subscribe to that service, compared to approximately 20% reporting postpaid subscriptions.
Okay, I'm going to go into because I've looked at it, but I'm going to go deeper after this conversation to really see, who are those persons who don't need the phone. Because I'm not sure this has ever happened to you. You've left your house without your phone and you turn back for it. I personally don't do it, but I know persons who do. It's like attached at their hips.
Yes, I would go back for it.
Okay, so what were the findings regarding internet use?
Okay, so during the survey period, we found that 96% of respondents reported using their mobile phones to access the internet. That's compared to just 56% just 10 years earlier, highlighting the significant growth in mobile internet usage in Dominica. Among respondents who did not use their mobile phone or their smartphones to access the internet, the barriers identified, similar to before, is the cost of mobile broadband service and maybe the preference. Some persons indicated the preference for using a laptop or a desktop computer. Instead of using their mobile phones, they would use some other means to access it. So when asked how they access mobile internet, like say, is it Wi-Fi? Is it a service? How do you access it? 42%, almost 40%, 42% reported only Wi-Fi. That's how they access the internet. 36.9% said they use mobile data plans when Wi-Fi is not available. And 7% relied on prepaid mobile internet service, while 8.6% use postpaid mobile service, right? So we wanted to know, apart from the mobile, what other ICT device do you use? So we realized that 52.1% of respondents reported not using any other ICT device apart from their mobile phone in the last 3 months. So the survey also captured information such as internet use by location. So are they using it at home? Are they using it at work? Are they using it at school? The frequency of use. Are they using it every day, once a week? How often they use that? You could also look at that information by age group, by urban area. So the report has a lot that you could just delve in if you wanted to look at one particular type in that.
Okay.
One of the other things that we looked at was barriers to ownership and use and service, because that would be important if you have to do interventions to increase, to get over these barriers. So we realized that approximately 10% of respondents indicated they had not used internet in the last 3 months. And that was due to, as I told you, lack of need. But a few persons also indicated there was lack of skill. They didn't have the right skills, the right skill set to access that, and also the highest cost of the mobile device, right? So that brings us into skills, right? And that's a very important part in terms of us accessing a lot of, just not, social media, but other access, online banking,
Yes.
and just research, other things that will be useful to us. So the survey revealed that digital skills were very limited in Dominica. 67% of respondents indicated that they had used basic skills. Now, when we talk about basic skills, that's relatively simple tasks, like moving a folder, sending an email. So just they 67% indicated they could do that. However, 19% indicated they had intermediate skills. So that would include spreadsheet, like creating a spreadsheet, creating an electronic presentation, or installing and configuring software, right? So only 19% indicated that they had that level of skill, and only 3% reported having advanced ICT skills. So that would be programming and coding. So from that, you would see that though a lot of persons, they can do simple tasks. They have basic skills, social media, they can do just the basic things but the intermediate as well as the advanced skills is very low in Dominica.
Okay. I was thinking where I fall, but I will not say it, to be judged. But yeah, I think I'm intermediate.
In the report, you'll see what would be intermediate, what skills would be considered intermediate as well as advanced, as well as basic.
Okay, all right. So let's go into the activities.
In terms of activity, so yes, we access the internet, but what do you do when you're on the internet? So 93.5% of individuals reported using the internet at least once a day. So we know that. Some of us much more than once a day, right?
Yes.
And they use it mainly for accessing information as well as some commerce activities. So in terms of online purchasing, 64% of respondents reported not purchasing goods or services online in the last 3 months. That was a little surprising, though. And among those who shop online, the most things, as you would think, our purchase would be clothing, footwear, sporting goods, accessories, and most persons would use the debit card or the credit card, right? So with that, we ask, what are the barriers to e-commerce? Again, lack of somebody, like 75% said lack of internet access. So we know those persons they don't have the internet access, they won't be accessing that. Some persons, 26% indicated preference to shopping in person. And actually 4% of respondents indicated security and privacy concerns. That was pretty low. So I guess we believe that online is safe.
Okay.
Right? We also looked at over-the-top services. So that's like services like WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube. So we ask in terms of respondents, which ones do you use? So WhatsApp was used by almost everyone, almost 98%. When we do this, of respondents, they use it. Facebook and YouTube was approximately 87%. And Instagram 47%, Netflix, 36%, 37% of them use it. And when they ask why, they said like, most persons mentioned affordability and ability to access services via Wi-Fi were the main factors influencing over-the-top usage. So,
all right. And the last one in that area, cybersecurity.
cybersecurity, as I indicated before, even on online banking, you realize that 4.4% they cited that as one of the reasons why they won't use it. So we saw that when we asked about, if we asked about reports of cybersecurity incidents, and we realized that was very low. So only 10.8% of respondents reported experiencing any cybersecurity incident in the last 3 months. And that was so more detail. There's a lot more detail in the report in terms of types of incidents, responses to that. I mean, responses to those incidents. So you could visit the report, go read the report, so you could see what kind of incidents, and what were the responses to that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Grace. So were there any findings from the Dominica's result that surprised ECTEL or that stood out in an unexpected way?
There were several findings that were particularly noteworthy. This included the low levels of e-commerce activity, despite high level of internet access and use, the widespread availability and uptake of fiber to the home, which is 60% of all subscriptions. When we go through the rest of the islands, you realize that Dominica is particularly high. And also the reliance on Wi-Fi rather than mobile data to access the internet.
Okay. All right. Who do you see benefiting most from these results, and how do you anticipate they'll be able to use this information, Grace?
Well, the results are particularly valuable to regulators like ourselves, the NTRC, policymakers, service providers, educators, and development partners. And they can use this information to design more targeted digital inclusion policies, improve affordability and quality of service and quality of experience. They can use that to expand digital skill training programs, and support evidence-based investment decisions.
Okay, thanks, Grace. So looking ahead, what are the next steps for ECTEL in using these results of the survey and advancing digital inclusion?
Yes. So ECTEL will use this findings to inform regional as well as national policy discussions to support regulatory decision making. So that would contribute to the design of programs to address those gaps in access, in those gaps in affordability and specifically skills, because you realize that yes, we have the basic, but the intermediate and the advanced, we're not there yet. The survey also provides a strong baseline for monitoring progress over time. So ensuring that no one is left behind in our regional digital transformation.
And I like the fact that you're able to quote from the survey 10 years ago.
Yes.
So if one is done again in the next 5 years or so, or 10 years, then you could, exactly. So this is really good. Any closing remarks?
I'd like to just thank you for this opportunity. The survey shows that while access has improved significantly in the Commonwealth of Dominica, true digital inclusion requires a little bit more. So maybe to continue our focus on affordability, on ICT skills development, and greater use of the digital services. I think that these insights will guide ECTEL's work moving forward. So thank you for having me.
Okay, so Grace, we started something at the beginning of this year called our rapid fire segment. Okay. These are, just don't overthink the responses. We have some time. I thought we would not have had time, but we have some time. So I'm going to ask you some questions and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Coffee, tea, or juice?
Coffee and tea. No
Okay.
juice.
A good fit or hiking? Don't overthink, Grace, and tell the truth.
Okay, hiking with limited hills.
Okay, all right. What's your go-to app for productivity? What app do you go to increase your productivity?
In terms of productivity, ChatGPT or ChatGPT.
Okay. And cardio or weights?
Weights, all the way.
Okay, that was your rapid fire. You did not overthink, so good job. So thank you so much, Grace. We covered quite a bit of information about the digital inclusion results, survey results for the Commonwealth of Dominica. And the entire report can be found, as Grace said, on our website at www.ectel.int. So in case you joined us late, our guest was Mrs. Grace Herman Jules. She's a research analyst in the Department of Economics and Finance at ECTEL. And if you have any questions at all, please go into the comment section and leave them there, and we'll be happy to reply. Apart from being on our Facebook page, this recording of ECTEL Bytes will also be on our YouTube channel, which is at ECTEL. It will also be on Instagram, LinkedIn, and X, which is at ECTEL Authority, and of course, our website, which I just mentioned, www.ectel.int. So please share with your contacts who may not be on social media. So for episode 39, we'll be turning the spotlight on Grenada. So make sure you keep watching to learn more about the findings from all the member states. So that's it for episode 38 of ECTEL Bytes. I'm your host, Caretta Cook-Strauss, ECTEL's Communications and Media Relations Manager. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again virtually very soon. Take care.